I call the Minister for the Environment.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, it's truly bizarre for the Federal Labor Party to bring this MPI to attack a candidate at the South Australian state level, and then on the other hand to say, well, hang on, we're open to a partnership with him if he ever holds the balance of power. Labor's inconsistency and hypocrisy is there for all to see. And the member for Port Adelaide, a truly nice guy in this place, but he's in charge of a horrible Labor Party policy when it comes to energy and climate change. And he filled the cap when he published a book about the climate wars, and he admitted that the Labor Party had sent mixed signals, quote unquote, when they were last in office on energy and climate policy, and had made mistakes. Their mistakes were any one of their 12 different positions they had at the time. The CPRS, the ETS, the dreaded carbon tax, the Citizens' Assembly, that Athenaean mode of democracy that was promised by then Julia Gillard, and as well as the cash for clunkers and the many other disastrous policies that the Labor Party presided over during their 6 years in office. But what was the worst possible aspect of their policies at the time was the fact that electricity prices doubled on their watch. And in their own words, in their own policy document, the network prices skyrocketed, Mr Speaker, skyrocketed. The gold plating, which we are now paying a heavy price for, occurred under the then Labor government. And they ignored the warnings about the major export gas industry on the east coast of Australia and the impact it would have on prices and stability in the domestic electricity market and gas market. And then, after denying that they were warned, the member for Port Adelaide finally admitted that that was the case, both in its energy white paper as well as in an AEMO report, both in 2012. And it's that mess that the coalition has been left to clean it up.
That's right.
And our approach to energy and climate change policy is for the first time to try to integrate them into one single mechanism, a mechanism which will drive a more affordable and reliable power system, as well as meeting our international commitments to reduce emissions over time. And that is taking place with the National Energy Guarantee, a recommendation from independent experts made up of the Energy Security Board, the head of AEMO, the head of the AMC, the head of the AER, and an independent chair and an independent deputy chair. And that recommendation, through the National Energy Guarantee, creates two new obligations on the retailers. An obligation to provide a certain amount of dispatchable power, because we have failed to price reliability. We have failed to put a premium on dispatchability, and the price for that failure is played out graphically in South Australia, Mr Speaker, with the huge price volatility and the fact that prices in South Australia are on average 20% more than can be found in the rest of the country. So we're creating two new obligations on the retailers, one to provide a certain amount of dispatchability and the other to ensure that the emissions intensity of their portfolio of assets declines over time in a way that is consistent with our Paris commitments. And our National Energy Guarantee has been independently modelled, and the average Australian household will be $300 a year better off than they would be under the Labor Party's plan, Mr Speaker. And at the same time, we will see wholesale prices come down by 23%. So if you are running a supermarket, that could see you save $400,000 in your power bill. If you're a major chemical manufacturer, you could save $1 million in your energy bill. If you are a paper manufacturer, you could save $10 million in your energy bill. And if you are one of the millions of small businesses around Australia struggling with high power bills, you could also save hundreds of dollars if not more, every year, Mr Speaker. And no wonder the National Energy Guarantee has been so warmly received by both energy users and energy producers alike. The big employers across Australia, the BHPs, the Rio Tintos, the Dow Chemicals, Mr Speaker, they have come out in favour of the National Energy Guarantee. BlueScope Steel, the largest manufacturer in Australia, a major exporter into the United States, where they have cheaper power than we do here, has said for the first time in a decade it's an opportunity to break that impasse over energy and climate policy. The BCA, the Australian Industry Group, the ACCI, the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, irrigators, farmers, have all come out and strongly supported the National Energy Guarantee as it's the only game in town, Mr Speaker. So we say to the Labor Party, put your ideology aside, put aside the fact that you didn't come up with this policy, put aside the fact that your carbon tax was a disaster, put aside the fact that you presided over a doubling of electricity prices when you were last in government, and get behind the National Energy Guarantee to deliver lower prices and a more reliable system as we meet our international commitments. And on top of the National Energy Guarantee is the work we've done to abolish the limited merits review process, which allowed the network companies to game the system to the tune of $6.5 billion additional power bills that Australian consumers have had to pay because the Labor Party didn't have the courage and the foresight to abolish the limited merits review as we have done last year, Mr Speaker. And the deal that we've done with the retailers to ensure that they get more information, more comparable information, and information in a more easier to digest form so that they compare their energy bills with those being offered to them by other retailers, Mr Speaker. And it's that ability to shop around for a better offer that can save hundreds of dollars a year, or, as the Australian Energy Regulator has said, more than $1,000 a year for some customers. And nearly 1 million Australians have gone to the Australian Energy Regulator website, energymadeeasy.gov.au, in order to compare their deals, because we're told 50% of Australian households have not moved retailers or contracts in the last 5 years, despite the benefits from doing so. What about our intervention in the gas market that the ACCC has said is already seen up to a 50% fall in the gas price, Mr Speaker, that is received by some customers? That action we took was only forced upon us by the fact that the Labor Party had ignored the warnings when they were last in office. And gas is increasingly setting the price of electricity as some of the coal-fired generators have closed. And of course storage and Snowy 2.0. We are putting in place the big batteries, whether they be the lithium batteries or the pumped hydro projects, like the ones we're funding in the member for Grey's electorate at Kultana in the Upper Spencer Gulf, and near Whyalla with Zen Energy, partnering to use a disused mine, Mr Speaker. Those projects, including the Kidston pumped hydro project in Queensland. These are projects that are helping to deliver a more stable system, and a more stable system means a more affordable system. In closing, Mr Speaker, we know what the Turnbull government's plan is. It is reducing the network costs. It's getting a better deal from the retailers. It's putting in the storage solutions that we need for the 21st century, and it's putting in place the National Energy Guarantee to integrate climate and energy policy. That's the stability that we are offering the Australian people. At the same time, emissions on a per capita basis are in the lowest in 28 years. But on the other hand, we know what the Labor Party stands for: higher prices and a less stable system, Mr Speaker. That was their record when they were in office, and that is the record we're now seeing in Victoria under a Labor government, where they have tripled the coal royalties, and the Leader of the Opposition will say one thing to the coal miners in the Latrobe Valley and another thing to the people in Batman. And we've seen it now in South Australia with not just the 50% renewable energy target, but a reckless 75% renewable energy target, where the Premier, Jay Weatherill, is like a problem gambler doubling down to chase his losses. Mr Speaker, that is what Labor will give you when it comes to energy and climate policy.